Diaries of a Madman. Written by What Must I Do? Chapter 16. The March to Freedom. Part 1. Now I know a lot of movies and crap have the heroes get clubbed in the skull, and from there they can wake up in a few hours feeling fine. That shit ain't true. I was out for over a day with a concussion, nodding into and out of consciousness. When I finally woke up, I had the worst headache of my life. I leaned out of my bed and vomited what little I had in my stomach up, and then gagged until there was no bile left in my system at all. I still felt like shit, and I passed out again shortly afterwards. I woke up again with the Catwoman trying to feed me broth. I took what I could, though my head still felt like a horse had kicked it in, which, as I found out later, wasn't that far from the truth. It was a zebra that knocked me out. When I finally woke up for good, I found I was in a small camp on the western bank of the Nile. It was definitely a war camp. I could hear some sounds of smithing being done in one area, then I heard troops calling cadences in another area. My leg was chained to the floor, but the weight buried under a hard-packed sand. Of my weapons, or spike, there was no sign. Though it did appear that someone was sharing the yurt with me. Another rumpled cot sat against one of the walls. Seeing nothing I could do, I settled back to wait. My body was cramped from the long time spent in bed, so I did my best to shake it loose. There was only so much I could do with my wings, but I did what I could. I had my back to the tent door, wings completely outstretched, when someone pushed the tent flap in and gasped. I don't think I've ever mentioned it because it's never crossed my mind or seemed important, but my wingspan is, well, large. I'm around 5'6" myself. My wingspan is probably 8 feet, stretched completely out. Pegasi have more magic in them than I do, meaning their wings are a hell lot smaller despite them weighing more than I do. It means that I'm good at gliding, but mediocre at actually flying. I can imagine someone that has never seen anything with wings would be surprised to see them stretch so far. Anyway, when I heard the gasp behind me, I retracted my wings and quickly turned, surprised at being caught off guard. I can imagine how I looked. I had been away from a mirror since I left Ponyville, and so I hadn't bothered to shave since then. The rubber band was out of my hair, meaning it was thrown in wildly when I turned. My face was filthy from the sand and dust and grime. I probably looked like an angel after a serious year-long bender. Hi? I said, not sure what to do. The person that disturbed me was a female cat. A very buxom female cat, of the like that I wouldn't have been too surprised to see in working with some of the ponies back in Alexandria. She had a bucket of water in one hand and a bowl of broth in the other. I couldn't tell if she was going to call the guards or come the rest of the way in, so I didn't make any sudden movements. I just very slowly sat back down on my bed. We are surprised to see you awake so soon, she said weakly. Yeah, that happens with me. Humor sometimes works, but with no context, this one fell flat. I don't suppose that food is for me. Yes, it is. In the water, for the drinking or washing. We are near the river. It is easy to find. So nervous. Am I really that ugly? If you're afraid of me, just leave it right there and I'll wait until you're gone to get it. That seemed to prompt her into moving, and she brought me the bowl and left the bucket by the bed, then sat in the other bed in the room. I murmured things and began eating what I could. I still felt like shit, but I put down as much of it as I could bear. After a day or two in bed, I was feeling very weak, and I knew I needed to eat something. When I set the bowl aside, she started talking. Our leader wants to speak to you. We thought you were a simple mercenary, a sword for hire. But when we started searching your belongings, we found some interesting letters. Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. Instead of showing any distress, though, I forced myself to calmly say, Then, you know who and what I am. I trust I'm not a prisoner. with a pointed look at my chain.
That is there merely so that you will not try to flee or fight before we have a chance to talk to you. We read your journal entries.
This just got a lot more interesting. Thankfully, I left most of them back in Equestria. All I had here were the things I had written in the time since we left. Nothing that painted me as too much of a coward, so I could easily fake being an absolute badass agent of the crown. I mean, the Celestia ruled more than half the world. Why would she send a coward and a weak fighter into a place like this? Where is Spark?
Your dragon friend? He is being safeguarded.
Let me see him.
Not until you talk to our leader.
How can I trust you that he's still alive?
You will just have to take my word.
Damn it. These cat people were starting to piss me off.
He noticed some interesting things about you, too. He seems a lot more talkative than you do.
That's probably because he didn't get knocked out and wake up chained to the ground.
That wasn't my decision.
Your people didn't even ask if I would come quietly. I was unarmed.
Perhaps. We still didn't know if we could trust you. But now, you don't know where we are.
Your recruiting policy is shit. Tell that to whoever is in charge of it. And tell Anton that he can suck a dick if you ever see him again. Last time I take a job from a fucking pony with violent fucking cutie marks. She smiled at that and was about to respond when the tent flap wrenched open and a large hulking cat walked in. Now, I have been in presence of some violent people. The Naga, for example, were violent. Theirs was an honorable sort of violence, though. Unless you really pissed them off, they would fight fair. I've been among some gangbangers back home. They were violent. But if you were their friend, you were their friend for life. And they would always back you up. This cat, though? This fucker looked like he was just looking for any excuse to fly off the handle towards anyone. His hands were large enough to grab my head in one and my feet in the other, and just pull. And he looked strong enough to actually rip me in half, too. His face was a mass of scars, and his back was just as bad. He was missing one finger on his right hand, and half of his right ear looked chewed off. I didn't want to do anything to piss this guy off. I was afraid to even look at him. But I knew my stance here depended heavily upon what little authority I had from Celestia, and how I acted. So I met his gaze evenly, even though my feet felt like they should be quaking. When he saw that, he openly sneered, twisting the scars on his face into obscene shapes. Come on, you winged freak. We're going for a walk. With that, he bent down and ripped the chain out of the sand, pulling up a rock the size of Spike with it. I stood up, but before I could move, the cat lady pushed me back.
That's no way to treat our guests, Rock.
Until it speaks to the boss, it isn't a guest. It's a prisoner.
He is a guest in my tent, and you would treat my guests with honor.
I honestly thought he was about to punch her in the face and drag me off, but astoundingly, he bowed his head to her.
As you want, Cat.
And to me.
Come along, guest. You have a meeting with the boss.
I stood again and waved my arm forward.
Lead the way.
It was a rather disorderly camp. Little cubs ran about our feet, gazing in wonder at the Sphinx, they called me. That did not bode well, in my mind at least. I was itching for my desert clothes to hide my humanness to these people, and to hide my wings, of course. All I had on now was a pair of pants that they probably found in my belongings. The sun was beating down on my exposed flesh, already making me feel overheated. The leader's tent was in the center of the bunch, and we were on one of the edges. It didn't take us 5 minutes to make it there, but the half the camp we passed through was abuzz with gossip as soon as they laid their eyes on me. I didn't know how far the news was that I was from Equestria had traveled, but these people definitely knew something was up. I kept my head held high, at least pretending to have a little bit of dignity. I might be walking to the executioner's block, but I at least could give them a show. When I got to the leader's tent, I was made to sit down and wait. He was writing some manner of note or plan or something. As soon as I sat down, I realized exactly what was happening. Thankfully, I could outwait any cat any day, and set about proving it. While I was waiting, I took some time to study the cat in front of me. He was small, not overly old, but I could definitely feel some intelligence there. As I studied more of his body, I started to realize that this wasn't exactly as much of a he as I originally thought. She shifted once, and I could tell that I was correct in my new assessment. This dude was a chick. Her whiskers were long, her eyes were dark green, and she was a deep coal-black color. She wasn't scarred like her hulking fighter behind me, nor as buxom and noticeable as the cat next to Rock. No, their leader was someone you could lose in a crowd and never find again, or someone you could meet and know all your life but never know how to describe well. Very nondescript, you know? It's hard to describe. After half an hour of waiting, she gave up on that method and looked up.
So, Navarone, we meet at last.
You know my name, but I don't have the honor of yours.
Oh, you're going to be a fun one, aren't you? We know quite a lot about you, Navarone. Working for the Horse Queen of the Ponies, set to flee east with as many of her ponies as you can bring with you, and with as many of my cats to use as cannon fodder as possible. Tell me, did you really think we would be so foolish as to take that offer?
Oh man, full overgear into lie mode. I could understand why you might think it unwise to trade one type of slavery for what you might see as another.
Tell me, why should we flee east and beg for asylum from the Eternal Princess? Why should we not instead fight for our freedom here in our own land?
You might know I'm not from this world. I don't remember how much is in that journal that you read, but either way, I'm not. I'm from a world where war is common and rebellions are everyday things. Do you know what happened to my world civilians with weapons that try to go against standing governments with large armies? Before she could answer, I said, They die. They die fast, and they die hard. Even if they get outside support from powerful nations, they still tend to have an attrition rate that is simply unacceptable to any good commander. If you want to fight your government, you will lose, unless you can turn almost the entire population against them.
And what makes you think that we can't?
Because many of your people have already fled east. They wouldn't be running if they were winning, or had a good chance to.
She stood up, beginning to pace behind her desk.
Some fools do not see the big picture. They think that by running, their problems are solved. What if their families and their clan that are left behind? What if their people that are left to suffer? Why should we few who escape be the lucky ones who can leave our hard lives behind? Why can't we all break out? Or better yet, change the system?
Because that isn't how life works. You can't butt heads with the hardest skulls in the area if you are the weakest. You can try to fight if you want. It won't do you any good. Better to grab as many people as you can and flee to the nearest safe area as quietly as possible. Nowhere in this country is safe for you. Not for long, anyway. This is a nomadic-style camp. I could tell when I walked through it. You can't fight a government with these numbers. But if you flee east, you could build a safe haven there for any escaped slave that can make it to you and build a network to funnel slaves through.
I could see Capt preening behind me, while Rock seemed to glower darkly at my back. A quick guess told me that I suggested what Capt wanted and what Rock feared. The leader looked at Capt.
Did you feed him this idea before he came here? He woke up not 5 minutes later. Rock came in and grabbed him. I barely had a chance to feed him.
The leader looked back to me.
And your queen would be willing to help us in this?
I don't know. I can't answer for her.
Then what good are you to us?
Give me some paper, a pen, and let me meet with Spike alone for half an hour.
How can I trust that you won't magic yourself away?
What does it matter to you if we do? You'd be in the same boat you were before we met.
I could see the debate on her face. Finally, she assented. She turned to Capt.
Go, get the dragon.
The leader gave me a pen and paper.
When the dragon gets here, you have 15 minutes.
I started writing. When Spike arrived, he whooped.
Navarone, thanks Celestia, you're alive.
Yeah, they aren't kind with their recruiting options.
The leader shook a hand and said,
15 minutes.
They all filled out of the tent. I wrote respond ASAP on the letter, then handed it to Spike. Saying this is Celestia. He did. We're in a mess here, mate. These people don't trust us or Celestia, and they're divided on what even want to do. Some want to stay and fight, some want to flee and build a refugee network as they go.
Why can't they all just go north and let Celestia pick up them in boats?
Good question with an easy answer. That would be tantamount to war. It's one thing to offer asylum. It's another thing to steal people from their own country. Remember, there are ponies here that can't leave. If Celestia starts helping slaves escape like that, the government here will have a reason to start repressing ponies even more.
That's cruel.
Immediately after saying that, he belched out a response.
That's politics,
I said as I grabbed the note. It read, Could I, through you, teleport the leader to me to talk? I wrote, Negative. Locals too paranoid. Negative on you coming either. Can't risk a pony life here due to a misunderstanding. Give me one answer or another. Sorry. I gave that to Spike. The response said, If the refugee network will include the following ponies to escape, they can all come if they want. Help them however they need it.
Thank God,
I said, letting out a breath. I stuck my head out of the tent and told them that we were done, and had a response. It was a subdued group that came in. When they were all settled, I told them the news.
If your escaped slave network includes ponies, you can stage all you want in her territory.
Cat, at least, was pleased at that. Rock and the leader were less so, but only Rock expressed actual disappointment.
So, now that we're done here with that business, how about letting us get out of your hair?
I asked. Spike nodded happily. The leader frowned.
Not quite that simple. You know our plans. We can't just let you roam the desert freely.
I don't plan to roam the desert. I plan to head directly east and get the hell out of this fucking place.
We still cannot let you do that. I'm afraid you're coming with us, even if we have to chain you and make Rock drag you.
Will you at least let me have my weapons back?
You can have a hunk of wood and one of your knives. The rest are needed.
And my bolts, my gloves, my journals, pretty much everything else I had?
Everything we didn't keep, we left with Spike. Speaking of which, you two seem to see each other once a day, but otherwise you are to be kept apart. As long as you behave well, Navarone, you can continue to stay with Cat. Just obey her orders. Otherwise, well, I've heard cages do interesting things to winged creatures.
Oh, hell no. If you cage me, you will die.
It was not a threat, not a warning, just a direct statement of the fact, and was said as such. She nodded as though as that she was expecting.
Then don't make it necessary.
A silence came over us until an odd thought occurred to me.
Tell me, why did the cubs outside call me Sphinx?
There's a massive statue and the slaves were forced to build outside of Catro. It was your type of body, your type of wings, but the face of a cat. The slaves and common people who built it, not the Naga that commissioned it, were mad. But then you show up. What would you think, Navarone?
As long as no one asks me for a riddle, I'm okay with it.
That reminds me. The question you asked me at the start of this discourse. My name. I am called Jocasta.
Son of a bitch.
That requires some understanding of strange human mythology to get. One of the legends of the Sphinx was that Oedipus answered her riddles, and the Sphinx fell in love with him because of it. But Oedipus loved a woman named Jocasta, which was his mother. It's an odd story. Anyway, the Sphinx ended up killing herself to try to get Oedipus to love her. Did something like that. I don't know much, but that sounded right. Either way, it was a terrifying coincidence that I would run into a group of people that call me Sphinx, led by a woman named Jocasta. With that bombshell, she had my chain removed and sent us back to our tents. I asked Cat about letting me fly, but she said no.
You would be the only flyer in the air, and they are not common of sight. We are not too far from Catro, and you might bring retribution upon us.
My crossbow and naga knife were returned to me in Cat's tent. With them came everything else I had on me. Letters, journals, about half of my bolts, the alcohol, my gloves, and one of the fire starters. I didn't even bother asking what happened to the rest. Navarone is just constantly getting captured, isn't he? First the Naga, now the cat folk it seems. Let's hope that the same thing that happened to him at the Naga camp doesn't happen again. However, I have a sinking suspicion if it does, then I will have to also cut this chapter up. Hopefully not. We will see. We will see. That aside, however, who else will see are my wonderful Patreons. Thank you to my Tier 1 Patreons, Angel Booth, CH, Dreamless Portal, HKH4, Hyperlink, Jason, Nine Game, Lord High, Lost Nebula, Mercurio, Michael McDonald, Pony Entertainment, and Redeemer of Dark. My Tier 2s Captain Blue Shadow, Doing Troll Trooper, Andrew Ingram, Chaotic Mist, Klaus Zaza, Danish Dash, Dillian Musser, DJMX2000, Elemental Wolf, Solus Eclipse, User 1842, Weewoo, Mackenzie Macolas, G-Man 121 Garza, H1 Wolf King, Can Panzer, Mr. Crazy Deacon, Nobody, Nocturne, Rocky 2522, Styx, Potato 20, Saint Gunk, Brianni Dragonwolf, Swordbrother Mordred, and Volio Cod. The big thank you to my previous Titan tiers, Dark Guardian, Danish Dash, Maverick, and User 1842. A big thank you to my current ones, Biz Eclipse, and Silent Titan. I appreciate your guys' support so much and it means a ton to me. That aside, however, this has been Firehearth. Have a wonderful day.